Mr. Bill Gottwalls and his brother Bob, they've been in business, in the trucking business, since 1953, and were very successful. And then they ventured off and acquired a horse transportation business in Ole, Pennsylvania, and that is known as Brookledge today. New York, Kentucky, Florida, that's our main hubs. We do go cross country. We do also fly horses, but predominantly the ground is what we do. This is the Ocala depot that I manage. There's people in the world that think, oh, they're commercial, they're big, they're this, we don't get the specialized service. Well, I couldn't disagree more. Brookledge has such a demand for just good people and good service that I feel like Brad has put great people on the ground. We have agents on the ground that were either trainers, riders, assistant starters, gate crew, blacksmiths, at all the various locations like Belmont Racecourse, Churchill Downs, Gulfstream. From the trucks, the agents, the dispatch, to drivers, to just boots on the ground, making it all happen. Whether it's a Kentucky Derby winner, Breeders' Cup winner, or a backyard horse going to a girl that her parents bought just as her first horse or a pet, they're all the same to us. We're gonna give the utmost attention and service to that animal and the customer. We're only as good as our last shift. We take a lot of pride in what we do. It is also important for us at Brookledge to, when we pick your horse up, to deliver it in a timely manner. There's probably 65 to 75 over-the-road trucks like that's behind me. And then there's 50 to 60 smaller trucks that help service those bigger trucks. Our name is everything, but at the end of the day, we're nothing without customers, and we're nothing without great drivers to service those customers. We've weathered some storms, we've lost some key people, and God has provided people to step right into those spots. And I feel like it all comes together and gels as a team once you know where it's coming from. God has blessed Brookledge and everybody affiliated with Brookledge immensely. It's a big family, the whole equine industry. And Brookledge's main core values is to give back to the community, to give back to thoroughbred charities, to give back to the chaplaincies, to give back to families that, may not have it. Really, case in point, we're truly blessed to have what we have. Horse Farms Forever has, for me, just reinstilled those values of what it should be for the future to come. Initially, we were saying to ourselves, how can we play a role in this? Obviously, it's something we need. It's something that we absolutely need to be aware of. Without these horse farms and that rich belt of land that grows good horses, it's very important that we preserve it. I have several friends that have children in the business, going to be in the business, and if you're not nurturing the whole system and the land and the business and the industry itself, if our kids want to be part of that, there won't be anything to be part of. It's so easy to think in the now, but the now is tomorrow, the now is the next day. It's always changing, and as you see growth, we want to encourage growth and have jobs come to Marion County, but there's plenty of land to be had. There's plenty of places to strategically move it and place it that everybody can play and everybody can flourish in such a wonderful place that is Marion County.
Hello there. Welcome to the 3rd Annual Conservation Summit, and welcome also to everyone who's attending on the live stream. My name is Michelle Grald. I am proud to be a member of Horse Farms Forever and to be serving as Director of Communications. We are here today to have an important conversation about transportation and traffic here in Marion County, especially as it affects our horse farms and our equine industry. Now, as you can see from our agenda, we are going to get down to business quick and have you out of here by 2 o'clock. After the Acorn Award presentation, we will be moving on very quickly to keynote speaker, Secretary Perdue from the Florida Department of Transportation, followed by our guest speaker, Tracy Straub from Marion County. Each speaker will answer 2 pre-selected questions at the end of their talk. The information for those questions was provided by you, our members, with input onto our website. Some of our members will be posing the questions, and the questions will show on the screen. In the interest of time, we will not be taking any further questions or comments from the floor, but we encourage you to reach out to us and to the speakers to continue the conversation after the program. So I shared that why we are here is to have a conversation about transportation, but I want to spend a little bit of time talking about how we are here. We are here because of you, because of our members, friends, and supporters, and very particularly because of our summit sponsors. Let me start with our title sponsor, Brookledge Transportation. Now, how appropriate is it that the largest equine transportation company in North America is sponsoring our transportation summit? You might have thought we planned it that way, but actually, Brookledge Transportation has been our title sponsor since there was a conservation summit. They have sponsored us for the last 3 years in a row. And we are so thankful for the commitment that they have made to the equine community here in Ocala and also to our mission. Thank you, Brookledge Transportation, up there in the cheap seats, for delivering us once again. Now, last year, we were proud to show you that we had 40 sponsors for our Conservation Summit. Businesses, nonprofits, farms, landowners. This year, we have 60, so the herd has grown. And you've seen their names around on the signage and also in this presentation that I'm showing here. And to me, what's interesting about this is the diversity of this vibrant Ocala economy, that all of these businesses have stepped up to be involved with farmland conservation, and also the strength of the equine industry here. We have breeders and trainers and all of the products and services associated with that. We have individuals, landowners, and we also have equine media. We have show facilities and nonprofits that are focused on horses. But we also have beer distributors, hotels, diamond crafters, lawn and garden equipment. Just about everything you can imagine is involved here. And I just want to say that we are so proud to have so much backing from the commercial world as well as the nonprofit world. Because what that means is that everyone is stepping in Ocala Marion County to be involved with the important question of farmland preservation and where we're going to end up in the future. Not every county has a unique global identity and brand, but Ocala Marion County does. We are the horse capital of the world. And in order for it to stay that way, we need to have horse farms forever. So we are just so thankful for all of these sponsors. Like our horses, we're stronger together. And finally, there are a few special someones that I would like to extend some thanks to. The Peeps Foundation for coming here and sharing the story about how they are rescuing and rehoming miniature and dwarf horses. And also to Elma Garcia, who, if you've seen, a lot of the beautiful landscape photography that we have in our presentation and our signage on our website, that is all because Elma has given us her beautiful creative eye and donated these photos to us. So thank you, Elma, for the wonderful photographs. I think they help inspire us all about the beauty of this place. And I also want to thank Sean Dowie for being here to photograph today for us, and to Dillon Media Group for the enormous ginormatron that we have here that is going to make it possible for you to see every diverging diamond intersection, every map, every chart that we're going to get to see today. And also they are doing our live stream coverage and all of our video coverage. We thank them so much for all their help. And finally, I hope you all enjoyed a fantastic lunch provided by Fresh Green Tomatoes Catering. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce our Director of Conservation Strategies, Busy Shires.
Well, thank you, Michelle, and thank you to everyone for being a part of today's Conservation Summit. So over the past 4 years, Horse Farms Forever has worked very hard to prevent roadway and development threats from encroaching inside the Farmland Preservation Area. And one of the most important things that we do is we monitor every development application that is submitted to the county. And one of those development applications was for a special use permit for an ATV racetrack and 1/4 mile drag strip for Flemington, the heart of the Farmland Preservation Area. We opposed that application, and thankfully the Marion County Commission also denied that application. But what it did is it set us on a path of amending Marion County's comprehensive plan to help strengthen the Farmland Preservation Area. So now, after 14 months of working with our stakeholders, the Growth Services staff, and our expert land use attorney, Matthew Brockway, who is here with us today. Thank you so much, Matt. I'm very happy to announce that the Comprehensive Plan text amendment became effective on April 30th of this year. And what it says is all zoning changes and special use permits within the Farmland Preservation Area be consistent with and preserve, protect, support, and enhance the rural, equestrian, and farmland character of the Farmland Preservation Area. Woohoo! So while this is a very small change, it's just a half a sentence, it will have a huge impact on protecting this very special place. So I want to say thank you to our members for your support to making this happen, and most importantly to our Marion County Commission, who all 5 of them voted unanimously to adopt this comprehensive plan amendment. And some of them are here with us today, and I'd like to recognize all of them though. We have Chair Craig Curry. There we go, thank you. Vice Chair Michelle Stone. Kathy Bryant. Yep. Jeff Gold and Carl Zalek. Thank you. I'd also like to recognize Ocala Mayor Kent Gwen. Thank you so much. And we have 3 members of the House of Representatives. Joe Harding. Stan McLean. And Yvonne Hayes Henson. Thank you so much. So the mission of Horse Farms Forever is to inspire the conservation of horse farms. And one of the ways that we do this is we award the Acorn Conservation Award to a landowner in Marion County that has made a significant contribution to protecting horse farms. And last year we were honored to present this award to Charlotte Weber, owner of the magnificent Live Oak Stud. And this year we are honored to present the award to John and Leslie Malone, owners of the iconic and historic Bridlewood Farm. So please welcome Bernie Little, President of the Board, and George Isaacs, who's a founding member and director of Horse Farms Forever. He's also the General Manager of Bridlewood Farm and newly elected President of the Florida Thoroughbred Breeders and Owners Association. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, and all of our distinguished guests, welcome, and thank you for being here today. As Busy just said, it's my pleasure to present the Acorn Conservation Award today. So what is the Acorn Conservation Award? The Acorn Conservation Award is presented by Horse Farms Forever to a Marion County landowner who has made a significant contribution to the preservation of horse farms. The award is a one-of-a-kind bronze sculpture captured by renowned wildlife sculptor Bryce Pettit from Durango, Colorado. The phrase "from tiny acorns, mighty oaks grow" aptly describe how we envision the conservation in Marion County. A few landowners are leading the way by putting their vision into action as they protect their land. Each time they become an example to other landowners who see the possibilities, and the movement grows. In the end, a magnificent tree is grown with branches that spread throughout the county, and the Farmland Preservation Area is sheltered by its shade. It is my true pleasure to present the Acorn Award to my bosses, John and Leslie Malone. They are truly deserving of this distinguished award. Since their purchase of Bridlewood in August of 2013, we have grown from the original 800 acres to now 2,200 plus acres. And they would buy more if there was more available. They have also provided a lot of capital to buy horses and build a world-class program once again. It would truly be an understatement for me to personally say that I have lived and had a blessed career at Bridlewood Farm. To work for not only one, but two wonderful, committed owners is truly unbelievable, and I feel providential. The Malones are a wonderful, down-to-earth couple who are great employers and deeply care about their people, and also want to contribute and leave a definable footprint in the communities they do business in. John is the ultimate chess master of markets and all things media, who inspires everyone around him with his cool, calm, and collected style of leadership. Leslie is the kind-hearted, passionate, lifelong equestrian, still rides dressage, who is John's #1 sounding board, BS included, and is the chief architect and contractor of all their projects and holdings. She also inspires us through her example of excellence and perfection. As many of you also know, they are the #1 private landowners in the United States. During the time I've worked for them, I have traveled to many of the properties they own, and I have witnessed a common central interwoven philosophy that binds them all together. A deep commitment to the land, a deep commitment to the people who work the land, and a deep commitment to the horse and other animals of the land. Those 3 C's, ladies and gentlemen, are the winning trifecta for stewardship and conservation. It is now my honor to introduce you to John and Leslie. Thank you. Hey, John. Hey, Leslie.
Got involved in Bridlewood and have really enjoyed it. Nothing's better than horses and open space, so it's an enormous honor for us to be the second recipient after Charlotte, who happens to be our neighbor down here in Jupiter. Leslie, you want to say a couple words?
No, not really. I don't have a lot of words for Bridlewood, except it's just beautiful, and I wish we could be there more often.
What's better than hills in Florida and trees?
Yeah.
So a beautiful area. It's our pleasure to be a property owner there and to encourage the preservation of open space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
To use an analogy, these beautiful, iconic horse farms are Ocala's ocean, and the magnificent live oak trees are their coral reefs. They need to be respected, protected, and preserved. So thank you, John and Leslie, for having the vision to protect Bridlewood Farm. Thank you again. George, I'll present to you this beautiful Acorn Award, and thank you for everything you do for Horse Farms Forever.
Thank you. Thanks.
I also want to thank OBS, our hosts here today, Ocala Breeder Sales and Tom Ventura, for allowing us to use this magnificent facility. It is privately owned. They are a founding member of Horse Farms Forever, and we are here as their guests. So join me in thanking them for their generosity in letting us use this facility. I'd like to recognize the staff members and directors of Horse Farms Forever. I'm not sure if there's a hidden message in this slide, but you'll notice I'm not in it. So, but the directors, many of them are here. Wave your arm if you, when I call you out. Linda Bamman, I know you're here. Nick Demerick, Rob DeCino, Elma Garcia, Tom Graby, George Isaacs we just saw, Paul Kaplan, and Chester Weber. Somewhere I had lunch with Chester, so I know he's here. And you met our professional staff, Busy Shires and Michelle Grauld. They are people, while they are professional staff and paid for their services, they're paid about 50 cents on the dollar for the value they bring to us. I'd also like to recognize our event planner, Sadie Fitzpatrick. She's in the back. Sadie did a tremendous job putting this event on. She's waving back there. And for the many volunteers that helped us put this on today. So, what's the mission of Horse Farms Forever? So my background is marketing, and I think the name should say it all, and this name does, Horse Farms Forever. Our goal is to be the catalyst for conversations about conservation. And many people ask, tell me about the Farmland Preservation Area. Why is it important? If you'll take a look at these numbers, I think the numbers speak for themselves. Last year, let's do this once more. Last year, we surveyed 17,000 households in Marion County and asked them to rank the most important issues facing the county. Farmland preservation was the #1 issue. 90% said that preserving the farmland preservation to ensure the legacy of the horse capital of the world was important. Additionally, the #2 item was transportation and traffic, and that makes today's summit even more relevant. Last year, Florida had the second highest growth of any state in the country. And when that many people are moving into a state and that much traffic is coming into the state, the transportation systems have to grow to accommodate it. To help us better understand how this growth affects Marion County, we're honored to have as our featured speaker today, Jared Perdue, Secretary of the Florida Department of Transportation. Jared has spent his career at FDOT. He entered as a professional engineer trainee after graduating from the Citadel. He was appointed secretary by the governor just April of this year. Little did he know that 2 hurricanes would face him in the first months of his service. He has a passion for Florida, is a highly regarded professional. Please join me in welcoming Secretary Jared Perdue.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here today. Incredibly honored to be here. And I don't know if you saw on that slide where I was being introduced, I have 5 daughters. Usually I get a lot of oohs and ahs when people hear that statistic. There's a couple of things I want to say about that, just because one of the things I like to do, you know, when I get ready to talk about transportation, first of all, in order to receive and hear from me about transportation, I think it's good that you know a little bit about who I am. As you can tell, I have a little bit of an accent. I am a native Floridian, born and raised in Florida, and guess where? In the Panhandle. So I grew up in a rural part of Florida in the Panhandle, spent my entire life there. My wife is actually from Louisiana. She was born and raised in Louisiana, so She has a little bit of Cajun flair. Every once in a while I get to hear what Cajuns really sound like when they get upset. But she's an incredible woman, obviously, because she is together with me raising 5 beautiful daughters, all of various ages. The oldest is 16, the next 14, 12, 10, and 6. And here's something interesting about her. She chose not to have a career, but rather to stay home with our children and homeschool them. So she's been doing that our entire marriage, and she works way harder than I do. I'm not going to go home and complain about a few hurricanes hitting Florida. She has a hurricane every day with those kids. But so the interesting thing, I feel at home here, honestly. I actually love the idea of conservation and protecting horse farms. I'm actually a horse lover myself. When my wife and I first got married, we bought 5.5 acres, built a quaint little home, and our family grew to 3 horses, 12 chickens, 2 dogs, a lot of other stuff, a lot of other animals. And I loved horses, raised them from when they were young, trained them myself to ride, to trail ride. And as we started having children, though, I realized that I was going to have to give something up. And so you begin to balance the finances. I've been in public service my entire career, as you saw. And so when we got to child number 3, that's when I realized, my time in the horse business may be changing. And so then 4 came, then 5 came, and so we had to kind of navigate away from horses because obviously that is expensive. And children are expensive, and so I need to provide for our children. So that's what we've done. But I love Marion County. I love this area. I love rural Florida. As I said, I was born and raised there. And so it's really important to me. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. But, this is one of the challenges with transportation. How do you provide necessary transportation but still protect and conserve what makes Florida special? All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where we are today with transportation, where we've been in the past, where we're going in the future. But first, I want to talk a little bit about who we are at DOT. There's some core principles that drive us at the Florida Department of Transportation, and it's really over the many, many years that we've been in business in the state of Florida, it has really become a defining culture of sorts for us. And one is our core mission, which is to provide safe and efficient and reliable transportation for the citizens of the state of Florida. And that doesn't only mean moving individuals around from point A to point B. That also means supporting the economic growth that's occurring and making sure goods and services can also move safely and efficiently. And as you saw, especially after the pandemic, we actually had a lot of supply chain disruptions nationwide. And so this ties back to our mission. We actually saw vulnerabilities in the supply chain in Florida. And so tying that back to our mission here in Florida, we want to make sure that our entire system is reliable and sustainable for the future. And so we see vulnerabilities now in supply chain based on some of the things we've experienced. And so this is going to become important to us. Then it becomes one of our goals. How do we address this? The other thing is that we believe strongly in the value of relationships. It is absolutely paramount to tackle any challenge, anything that we face in life. One thing that I found is that you really can't successfully do that without the help and assistance of those around you. And so we place a very high value on relationships, on the concept of one FDOT is what we call it. It's a team, but one FDOT is bigger than just our agency. It includes our local governments. It includes the industry that helps build the infrastructure that you use. It includes local communities, and it includes the individuals that use our system. We're really, truly one FDOT. And so we very strongly value relationships. And what are some of the most important components of relationships? Trust, loyalty, commitment, and respect. These are all fundamental tenets in our values at FDOT. And so we choose to embrace those, but not only embrace them, especially, in my first 7 to 8 months as secretary, we have been bringing new emphasis to these tenets of relationships, because the reality is, anytime we set out to do something important, the way that people feel and the way we engage them matters. It is absolutely critical for the success of the future of transportation in Florida. And so we believe in that, we value that, and even here in Marion County, we know that Marion County shares those values. The county commissioners, Marion County staff, we are engaged with them on a daily basis in transportation. We have tremendous relationships, and the partnership really, truly is seamless. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, because we're actually partnering on some very important infrastructure projects here in Marion County. So, relationships are important. Preservation, conservation, important. And so, what does that mean for how we deliver transportation in the future? We believe that in order to successfully deliver infrastructure for the future, based on the way that society has changed, based on the way that the state of Florida is changing and growing and adapting, the absolute number one priority is for transportation infrastructure to embrace communities. One thing I've learned in the state of Florida throughout my career, and it began in the Panhandle, but then later in my career I moved to Central Florida before moving to this role. And one of the things that I very quickly learned is that Florida is extremely diverse. We are a very diverse state. Every community within the state of Florida has its own character, has its own identity, has its own heritage, its own traditions, also its own vision for where it wants to go in the future. And we believe that enabling infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, to be a part of that heritage, a part of that tradition, but also a part of that vision for the future is really where success is in transportation infrastructure. And so this has become an umbrella focus for us. This is like an umbrella theme. We believe that every single transportation infrastructure project can truly embrace the community that it lies within, even if it's something simple like a resurfacing project. Most of our roadway facilities go through a local community of some sort, and we touch it every 15 years or so just simply to put fresh pavement down. Why not use that as an opportunity to help this transportation facility now take on the character of the community that it's going through? It's really a new way of thinking. You've already begun to see us do this on some of our projects. It's been hugely successful. Sitting down with communities before we decide what's going to be done on that project to ask you all, hey, what do you want to see? What would you like the feel of this roadway to be? How would you like it to look? What type of things would you like to see incorporated to help it align with your community? Now, it's important to remember resources are always finite. There's never enough to do everything everybody wants or needs. However, if we engage communities early and get that feedback and you become part of our team, one FDOT, then we together can implement infrastructure that takes on the character of the community that it lies within. So while I'm on communities, I'm just going to take a brief moment to mention this, which yes, in my first few months as secretary, we did get hit by two hurricanes. One was a major Category 4, Hurricane Ian. And then most recently, we had Hurricane Nicole on the East Coast. And so the reason I want to share this here, and we could talk about this for hours, because I'm incredibly proud of the team. I'm incredibly proud of not only the FDOT team specifically, but the industry and the local communities that all pulled together. There's nothing like a challenge to bring people together, tear down barriers, get individuals aligned behind a common set of goals and values, and we really, truly can achieve new heights when we do that. And with Hurricane Ian, this was a great example of embracing communities. And so our state, FDOT state infrastructure, was essentially unharmed from a Category 4 hurricane. And so I'm going to talk about resiliency a little bit later. This is something important to remember. We've been doing resiliency for years. Our state infrastructure was relatively unharmed when Hurricane Ian came through. However, there was significant damage to local roadways. city streets, county roads. And one of the things that we noticed right after the storm came through is that the causeways leading out to Pine Island and Sanibel Island in Lee County, barrier islands, thousands of people live out there. Thousands of people were stranded. Those causeways were severed by the hurricane. And they are local county roads. You know, so you think back traditionally, you know, what's the first thing that happens whenever there's something needs to be done? People begin debating about jurisdictional boundaries. But under Governor DeSantis' leadership and under this new community-oriented type approach, we were able to go in and actually ask Lee County, hey, would you like help with these roads? You know, most of our roads are unharmed. We have the people, we have the resources, we have availability. Would you like help? Yes, they said, absolutely, please. Can you please help us? There's just so much devastation. So many people are devastated, and we have issues with power, water, sewer. Please, can you help us? Absolutely. You know, after sharing the information with the governor even, you know, just sitting down and briefing him on it and talking through, you know, what it was going to take, he's like, what are you waiting for? Get to work. It just like that quick. And so it's amazing, you know, what can happen when from the top all the way down to those communities, everybody works together. And so we immediately put a plan into action. I know you've seen a lot of the news coverage, but the causeway to Pine Island, we're saying we finished it in 3 days, actually 50 hours of around-the-clock work. We mobilized 60 dump trucks. They were hauling material 24/7, and this is one of the first times we've ever blended FDOT dump trucks with our own private contractors just to simply get the job done faster. Everybody was aligned behind a common goal and a common vision, and we were able to we were able to restore access in just 3 days. And the amazing thing was, like you saw, utility trucks lined up. Publix, they restocked their grocery store on Pine Island that same day. They had trucks lined up ready to go. So everybody was pulling together, working together. 3 days. Sanibel Island, the damage was way more extensive. And even most of the engineers and contractors looking at it, just based on the damage, thought that it was going to take anywhere from 4 to 6 months to fix it. We actually... This is unheard of, really, in public sector with contracting. We actually decided to use a new form of contracting. We call it phase design build because we really didn't know what all was going to need it. You essentially had to rebuild a small island just to reconnect the barrier island to the mainland. And so we ended up entering into contracts with 2 different contractors on the same project in the same area just to mobilize enough resources. And then on top of that, we still had to blend our own resources in with them. There it took 80 dump trucks and 3 dredging operations to move enough material. And everybody asked, well, were the bridges themselves harmed? The bridges, the actual structures were essentially okay, but it's actually way more complex to move that much material in that short of a time than it is to repair. We've repaired bridges throughout the years. You know, we've got a set way of doing it. You know, we already know what we're going to do when things are damaged. We've never rebuilt a small island before, and so this was something amazing. 4 to 6 months. The first schedule we got back from the contractors after kind of getting the team together and everything was even by Thanksgiving, and so the team we got together, and you know, that's not a time frame that I knew the governor would not be happy with that because he was really pushing to get that access restored. And so we mobilized all this equipment, mobilized these people, and again, the local communities were there every step of the way. The Federal Highway Administration was there. All those barriers, all those divides you see on a daily basis, completely torn down, and we were able to restore access to Sanibel in 15 days, when everybody originally thought it would take 4 to 6 months. But after just 7 days, we sent a utility convoy of over 400 vehicles and personnel across the causeway, and you know what the utility providers are telling me is that it probably shaved at least 3 weeks off of power restoration. So just an incredible accomplishment. And so it just goes to show you, you know what? Yes, community is where it's at. In Florida, most of the people in Florida embrace that. We love the communities that we're in. We have relationships that are long-lasting, many years of working together, being in communities together, and it's something that really makes us shine when we have a challenge in front of us. And you know, transportation is no exception to that. It takes those communities working together to really, truly achieve new heights. And so we're going to continue to be focused on this. I'm personally just proud to be a part of the team. I'm proud to be from Florida. I'm proud to be on Governor DeSantis' team. The collaboration between the different state agencies during these storm events has been just incredible. And it's really been an honor and a blessing to serve in this role during these last several months. So I'm really excited about the future. Now, let's talk about the future. So I've kind of set the stage. Community, relationships, that's where it's at. We have a unique challenge in the state of Florida. We're the third most populous state in the union. We are growing rapidly, exponentially. 60% of our growth is concentrated in 10 counties. This is an interesting statistic, but just even looking at this is an incredible statistic when you consider the fact that a lot of areas in the state of Florida are growing in excess of 20% annually, population. And so while 60% is concentrated in 10 counties, there are still many other counties, many other areas of Florida that are just growing exponentially. So here's the thing. A lot of people are moving here. Florida is a great state to live in. It's a great state to visit. I mean, those of us who are from here, we love it. We want to preserve it. We want to conserve it. We want the future of Florida to be very similar to the past that we've had here, right? That's where that heritage and tradition comes in. How do you plan for that when we're growing at such a rapid rate? How do we preserve what we have and still plan to have the same quality of life and the same experience for our residents? Here's the challenge, and this is for most infrastructure, most public infrastructure, but just transportation specifically. We plan transportation projects based on a 3% population growth rate, and that's considered high. And transportation infrastructure typically takes 15 to 20 years to go from planning to construction. Now, you say, why does it take so long? The actual planning, designing, and building of the infrastructure is not where most of that time is attributed to. It's actually the limited and finite resources that are available. The reason transportation infrastructure takes 15 to 20 years is because we have a big state. There's a finite amount of resources going to transportation. You know, even if you consider state resources, federal resources, and local resources, it's still finite. There's only so much available to do what needs to be done. And so what ends up happening is you have to diversify your portfolio. You've got to invest in the right projects in the right places and spread those resources out across an entire region, area, state, et cetera, based on which entity you are providing this infrastructure. That's why that 15 to 20 year timeline has developed. Now, you know, for the state of Florida, that, you know, we historically, traditionally go way faster than other states. We have a very healthy transportation trust fund. Our revenues come primarily from state gas tax, and we're primarily funded with state funds in transportation. So, but just think about that. So you plan transportation infrastructure based on a 3% growth rate. Many areas in Florida are growing in excess of 20%. And so here's what that means for an individual. Yesterday, you had a 30-minute commute to work. It's almost like you went to bed, woke up the next morning, and all of a sudden you're sitting in traffic for an hour and a half trying to get back and forth to work. It feels like transportation infrastructure is behind in a lot of areas. But the challenge is actually that it's because those areas have been growing so fast, 20, 30, some areas even 40% growth. And so here's the challenge. How do we think about transportation infrastructure differently so that we can start to catch up strategically with where those growth areas are? This is the challenge that we're facing in the future. And you know, We're fortunate that we have a state legislature and a governor that has a strong commitment to transportation infrastructure. They understand that it is one of the backbones of our society, that it's paramount to economic growth. And they continue to support and fund record budgets at FDOT. And so even this Governor DeSantis' last budget and the budget that the legislature passed from this past session had the Freedom First budget had another record budget for FDOT, $12.6 billion. One of the questions that I get sometimes is, well, does that include all the new federal funds from the what they call the IIJA, the infrastructure bill? The answer to that is no. A lot of those funds were not available back when that budget was passed. We've since then been able to add them in, and our budget is closer to $14 billion. It's the biggest ever for FDOT. So this is exciting. However, you put it in the context of how fast we're growing and the needs that we have on the horizon, it's still not enough to do everything that needs to be done. The other thing that I want to highlight about our budget, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, staying diversified. So this is one thing that we're very good at here in Florida. We have a very diversified portfolio in terms of transportation infrastructure. It's not just about roads and bridges. It's about seaports and airports and freight and rail and transit. And also, yes, we have a spaceport here in Central Florida that we help fund what we call shared use or common infrastructure, because it feeds those industries, it feeds those economies, and it helps strengthen and make things like our supply chain more resilient for many years to come. So this is where we are today. We have a record budget. We're excited about that. We have a lot of big projects that we're delivering. There's a lot of great strategic projects that we're investing in. But then the challenge is, guess what? We still need more because of how fast we're growing. And so as we look to the future, what we've kind of developed are some strategic focus areas that we believe have become very critical to the future. And this slide right here actually shows you a pretty diverse array of images. And so, one of the things that is really important that many communities saw, appreciate, understand, and want to see solutions for in the future is resiliency. Having resilient infrastructure is paramount to our future. It's important for not only emergency preparedness and emergency response and recovery, but it's also important for the quality of life of our communities. Hurricane Nicole, we were hit by Hurricane Nicole not that long ago. A lot of A1A on the coastline was damaged. Think about all the businesses along that A1A corridor that suffered from several days of lost revenue while we were repairing A1A. Now, I'm happy to report that both our District 2 and District 5 offices jumped into action. We actually had FDOT crews out there working as the storm was passing through. They were on the tail end of the storm. And even one restaurant owner said, I can't believe FDOT was here trying to fix the road at the same time I was trying to get my business back open. He said it was just incredible. And this is what we believe. This is our mission. But it's important that we continue to build it back more resilient for the future. Hurricane Ian hit the West Coast, and as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our state infrastructure was essentially unharmed. It's because we have been building resiliency to our system over the years, and it does work, and we're going to continue to do it. Let's see, I want to pull that image back up. So another strategic focus area, I mentioned this earlier, supply chain. Very critical for the future of Florida. We have got to invest in the right type of supply chain projects, infrastructure, to make sure we're resilient and sustainable in the future. Even when the rest of the nation may be struggling with supply chain issues, we want Florida to be strong and healthy. And we believe, we've seen some vulnerabilities. We believe there's places we can invest with our seaports and airports, with the trucking industry, where we can have a resilient supply chain. Technology. Technology is super important for the future. As societies change and adapt, as technology continues to adapt, we have to make sure our infrastructure is prepared for the technology that's being incorporated into vehicles, into people's homes, into businesses, so that our infrastructure aligns with that seamlessly as we go into the future. You see an image here at the bottom left of, this is our new, what we call our new SunTrax facility in Central Florida. We actually built a facility just for the development, growth, testing, and implementation of new technologies. This is one of the things we want to do in Florida is attract innovators, attract startup companies, attract those who are developing new technologies to Florida. Hey, come test your technologies here, come test the implementation of them, and let's find a way to seamlessly roll them into the future. The other thing that's extremely important, and I know many of you have experienced this, is workforce development. I really like this, this image of this crew working on concrete here in the top left. It shows you how many individuals it takes for one operation on one project. Workforce development is absolutely critical. If we're going to achieve and be successful delivering the infrastructure that's needed because of our high growth, we have to have the people to deliver that infrastructure. You cannot deliver infrastructure without people. They are paramount to everything that we do. And so workforce development is something we're going to be strategically investing in. And really, this is true for all sectors of the economy, but we really need to start to innovate around the kind of people we're attracting. We need to look to our high schools, our vocational schools, our community colleges, not just your four-year degrees. You know, how can we show these individuals that if they enter into our industry, they'll have a career path to whatever they want to do? And so this is something we're going to be working diligently on. The other strategic, I call this a strategic focus area. We've got to make sure that we're building the right projects in the right places at the right time. And the growth rates in certain regions of the state impact how those investment decisions are made, and it should impact that. And so we need to look at that, and we have been looking at that. Something that you all are very familiar with is I-75, especially in Marion County. I drive it often, going to Tallahassee and back, and it is just not a very reliable facility right now. Even if your navigation app tells you it's going to take 3 hours, you have no idea if it's going to take 3 hours or 6 hours. Even just a vehicle stalled on the shoulder can cause 5, 6, 7, sometimes a 10-mile backup on I-75. It's because of the demand. There are so many cars trying to use it, there's not enough capacity for those vehicles trying to use it. So what do? I-75 is absolutely a priority for the local DOT district here. We've been coordinating closely with Marion County on what needs to be done. We started there's been task forces and things and recommendations out there. And so one of our goals is we started what we call the I-75 master plan. We call it I-75 Forward. The goal of this master plan is, high level, enhance mobility, improve reliability and safety. Okay, that's easy. But what's truly the goal of it? It's really to, one, identify improvement options for I-75 that we can affect quickly. We don't have 15 to 20 years. We don't have that. As a matter of fact, we need something there that should have been done probably 10 years ago based on how fast we're growing. So how do we affect that? That's what this master plan is doing. It's coming up, phase 1, with recommendations that can be implemented quickly, identify the resources it's going to take, identify what those improvements need to look like, and go implement them quickly. And so that's what we're looking at with I-75 Forward. Then phase 2 is to look at, I'm sorry, I went too far ahead there. Phase 2 is to look at long-term improvements that are needed to address the capacity and reliability issues on I-75, as well as the surrounding area, because the I-75 traffic issue is bigger than just I-75 alone. It's the turnpike, it's the local road network around I-75. And like even in Marion County specifically, there's different parts of Marion County, different communities within Marion County that are growing in different ways. And so that even there's some heavy industrial development and commercial development along the interstate. And so how do we facilitate the movement of all these different types of vehicles and provide the right amount of reliability and capacity on I-75 as well? And so this is a big conversation. It all works together. But you don't want to get lost in talking about what we need 20, 30 years down the road when it needs a fix today. And so we're looking at that phase 1 of what can we implement quickly, efficiently, that will actually improve, at a minimum, the reliability of the roadway. Some other things we're doing on I-75, we do have an interchange project coming up at County Road 484, and this is going to make a lot of different types of improvements with the on and off ramps and the intersection of 484 and 475A. It's going to have sidewalk upgrades, lighting upgrades, and all that. That project is close to $10 million. But again, you know, it's just identifying those interim quick fix opportunities while we plan for the long haul. Something else, I mentioned earlier our partnership with Marion County, which Marion County is absolutely a vital partner in transportation. The I-75 Northwest 49th Street Interchange Project, this is something that we're doing together with Marion County. Marion County is funding it. We're partially funding it. It's truly a seamless partnership. Right now, the estimated total cost is around $81 million. This is gonna be kind of like a foundation for where the future goes and helping traffic. Again, it's a broader picture of, you know, how do you manage the system around that I-75 corridor? And this is going to help provide some of that connectivity. Okay, something else that I know many of you are familiar with is the Northern Turnpike Extension project. So the Turnpike started a PD&E based on the Senate Bill 100 legislation that was passed previously. And so this is part of the bigger conversation about the future of Florida, the rapid growth rates that we're experiencing, how it fits in with our existing facilities, and also how we embrace the character of the communities that these transportation facilities are serving. And so we know, and we believe and we know that something else is needed to solve the transportation challenge in Marion County, specifically as it relates to the I-75 corridor, because that's really kind of the precipice of where all the traffic issues extend out to. And so we started this PD&E study based on that legislation, and many of you know that as part of that PD&E, we did what you call an alternative corridor evaluation, put some lines on a map and said, you know, these are the potential routes. We got a lot of feedback from communities, and again, this is the FDOT. I hear the chuckles. Yeah, we got a lot of feedback. It was good feedback. This is the FDOT that I'm here to talk to you about. Is we embrace our communities. We embrace their vision and what they want to do. We know that we need to do something. We want that something to preserve your farmland. We want that something to fit with the growth patterns that are occurring. We want that something to continue to provide the needed transportation while embracing and maintaining the character of your community. And we believe there's a way to do that. And so but we heard feedback from those initial routes that were on that map. And so we took a step back. Even the community of Royal in Sumter County, you know, please, you know, we don't want this road going right through the heart of our community. Yes, we hear you. We don't want to put a road right through the heart of your community. We know we have to do something. And so let's step back, let's re-engage with our communities, and let's talk about what those right solutions are. Because we know we need something. We know that it connects to I-75. And it's part of a bigger conversation about how we solve this problem for the future, because Florida is going to continue to grow. Properties in certain areas are going to continue to develop. Goods and services are going to have to move. Individuals need to get from point A to point B. And also, we have to be resilient for the future in terms of natural disasters. And so how do we tie all this in together? We first do it by engaging with you all as a community and finding the right solution, the right fit. And so that's what we're going to be doing moving into the future. You know, we're still going to be looking at what happens next with the Northern Turnpike Extension. We believe it's part of the I-75 conversation because it fits together, you know, as part of a bigger picture. And we're going to have to find a solution there. And so, you know, over the next year or so, we're going to be working through that. Next several months, we're going to be re-engaging and working through what that's going to look like. All right. I know my time is limited. My time is limited just like resources are limited. I tend to get long-winded, but one thing I want to end on before we go to the questions and answers. Safety is absolutely our top priority at DOT. We are very passionate about it. It's a part of everything that we do. And every project we build, every decision we make has safety as the top priority. we have built projects in the past that we believe have solved crash problems that were potentially fatal or had serious injuries. But at the same time, the statewide fatality and serious injury numbers are continuing to go up. Even after the pandemic, we've seen a change in driver behavior, and the numbers have gone up even more. The question is why? We don't know the answer to that question, but we have got to figure it out. And we can design safe infrastructure. We can build safe infrastructure, but still there's a challenge with behavior, the behavior of the people actually using the facility. And we've begun to see through research that behavior is a large contributing factor to every single crash. That's why they're truly random. You can solve a crash problem here, and then there will be several others that pop up over there. That's because behavior is a contributing factor. And so we began to research and work with our partners, work with our local communities to figure out how we can mobilize the horsepower in each and every individual that lives in that community to begin to affect those behaviors and educate people on safe habits using roadway infrastructure. We have a target to get to 0 fatalities. We have a vision to get to 0 fatalities on our transportation system, and it's not just state roads, it's all roads. And I can tell you, Marion County is committed to that as well. And we've been partnering very closely on safety in transportation, but it's time to do more. It's time for us to answer that question, why are the numbers still going up? And let's develop strategies. Let's mobilize the horsepower. Let's activate the people that live and work and play in these communities to really start to impact this safety number. One quick story before I finish. So my oldest daughter just turned 16 a few months ago. I love big diesels, okay? I have 2 Dodge Rams, both Cummins, and a Ford 7.3 Power Stroke. It's a 2000 model. It's our family vehicle. I've maintained it myself our entire marriage. So it's a 2000 model. It has 570,000 miles on it. So when I see the cost of diesel rising, it concerns me because I don't want to lose my precious diesels. But one of the reasons why I love them so much is because those vehicles are big and they're heavy. And I know that it gives my family a good fighting chance if they happen to be in a crash. And so what did I do? I had an 2004 Dodge Ram 2500. My oldest daughter was talking to me about, vehicles she would potentially want or not want to drive. She turned 16. I handed her my keys. I said, "Happy birthday." Of course, what you don't know about that story is that truck was full of rust and dents and had been wrecked a few times. And so she's like, "Dad, could we at least just maybe touch it up a little bit with some paint?" And I gave in to that. But I was teaching her to drive, and I said, what better way to teach you to drive than to go on I-4 in Central Florida, right? Extremely aggressive environment. And so when she was 15, I braved it as a dad. We went on I-4. I let her drive. I was teaching her to change lanes. Turn your blinker on, look behind you, check your blind spot, leave your blinker on for a while, check for cars coming up. She did everything. She passed all the tests. She started to shift lanes. A car came out of nowhere going about 90 miles an hour, and we almost got in a wreck. But what happened next is what I believe is part of the problem. The person driving that vehicle, we avoided a crash. The person driving that vehicle slowed down, got even with us, rolled down his window, and began to flick off a 15-year-old girl and yell obscenities at her for the next 5 minutes. So, how do we begin to impact those behaviors? How do we do that? That's the question. Now, it taught my daughter a valuable lesson, how to focus on the road in the midst of chaos, and she did good. And, of course, I was trying to figure out how, if I could just get my hands on that person, it would not be a good situation. But that being said, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. And so we have a couple of questions for you. First question is going to be asked by Kevin Sheely from the Ocala Metro CEP. The questions will show up here on the screen for everyone.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for your presentation today. We appreciate you being here. And you've referenced this already. We've 2 hurricanes have hit our state recently, one in the southwest, one in the southeast. How well did our interstate system handle the evacuations? And does there need to be a connection between the Suncoast Parkway and I-75 regarding evacuations?
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent question. It's really, there's a lot of complexities that go into evacuations, depending on where the storm is going, how much time people have to make decisions, and also what available routes there are. And depending on where a storm may hit in Florida, it completely changes the equation. I mean, it is really, truly very complex. You know, one of the things that our Director of Emergency Management, Kevin Guthrie, and also Governor DeSantis did leading up to this storm, which you saw like with Hurricane Ian, the path was changing constantly. Like the forecast was never set in stone, and then it even changed at the very last minute, you know, and people had, you know, hours to decide what to do. And so we saw, here's the good thing about what we have today. We have outfitted our interstate system with technology, so we have 100% coverage with real-time detection devices, cameras, fiber optic communication. And so we can actually watch in real time what people are doing, what those behaviors look like, what those patterns look like. And one of the ways we facilitate evacuations in Florida, a lot of people always ask us about this thing called contraflow, where you actually reverse the other side of the interstate. Florida is just too diverse for that. I mean, there's too many complexities because there's so many different ways to access our interstate system and so many different areas that people are coming from and going to. And then you also have the question of how do you get needed supplies and services in at the same time that people are trying to get out. And so we developed an innovative solution several years ago with the Florida Highway Patrol, where we actually open up the paved shoulder on the interstate to help facilitate those evacuations when it's needed. We saw, so when Hurricane Ian came through, we saw a lot of congestion on I-75 and I-4 specifically. Those hot spots that are typical in everyday traffic, I mean, you see even like I-75 in Marion County and down in Lee and Collier County, there's various parts of the day where it's gridlock no matter what's going on, right? And you're trying to figure out why. All of a sudden, after 45 minutes of sitting in traffic, you get up there and there's just a vehicle sitting on the shoulder of the road. And you think, well, was that it? You know, this is a huge reliability issue. So if the facility itself is not reliable in everyday life, then how is it going to be reliable during hurricane evacuations? This is a really important question to answer. Do I think our facilities did well during evacuations? Yes. Everybody that decided to get out, got out. We opened the shoulder for those evacuations. It went seamlessly. It worked well. It helped relieve congestion. But those pinch points, those hot points on I-4 and I-75 were still there, right? They were still there. And even opening the shoulder, those places where you have everyday gridlock are still there even when people are trying to evacuate. And so we saw one of the good things about Southwest Florida is some people went south and then east through Alligator Alley. That helped a lot. Some people went to Orlando, and then some people went north on 75. And so you had 75 southbound, 75 northbound, I-4 going to Orlando. That helped disperse traffic, and it worked because of where the storm hit and how people chose to evacuate and how it was being messaged. But that's just one scenario, one equation. You know, it's a very complex solution when you're looking at a storm coming in, and we want to build facilities to be reliable and resilient and enable those evacuations and that preparedness and the response no matter where it comes in or how it happens. In order to do that, you have to not only relieve those areas that are a problem in everyday life, you have to build for the future growth, which we just talked about, 20, 30, 40%. And so is something needed from between I-75 and the West Coast? We believe something is needed for the future of Florida. I mean, you only have so much space. You can only put so much capacity on one road. But there's a solution, and I'll give you an example in terms of preserving or conserving with transportation actually having a net positive impact on what Florida's true character is with the Wekiva Parkway in Central Florida. A lot of the Wekiva Parkway, that's a new toll facility. It utilized an existing road, State Road 46, for a lot of the way. And we had a net positive impact on the environment because we actually purchased more conservation land as part of that project than we impacted with the project itself. So just think about that. There's a lot of opportunities that come with transportation infrastructure, and the challenge is you got to work with your communities to balance the needs, the wants, the desires, the character, and what's needed for the future. And so yes, there is a need for more infrastructure based on how fast we're growing if we're going to continue to be resilient and safe and reliable. And so we're going to have to work through that solution together. That's a great question, though. Thank you.
Okay, your next question comes from Navroz Saju of HDG Hotels.
Secretary Perdue, thank you for coming to Ocala, Marion County. It is a really, really special place, and we're so blessed to call it home. You had talked about technology being part of the solution or possible solution as you look at transportation needs in the future. Where do you see self-driving cars and trucks as part of the solution? And the second part of the question is, when you design the roads, is there any technology upgrades that need to be done to the roads to be able to handle self-driving vehicles?
So technology is one of our big strategic focus areas. We've actually been a leader in the nation and worldwide in Florida in terms of technology infrastructure deployment. As I mentioned earlier, our interstate system in Florida has 100% coverage. Fiber optic communication, the most current and up-to-date detection devices of all sorts, speed, volume, you name it, video cameras, and so we have the foundation, we have the backbone in place for the future of connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles. Now, one thing about technology, we call it disruptive in a positive way. Technology changes so fast. It changes so fast that today you think, the future of autonomous cars is this, and then tomorrow that picture completely changes. And so, one of the things that we've seen, especially with transportation and technology, is there's been, over the last 10 years, there's been a lot of emotional speculation about what the future is going to look like. And, several companies privately have been developing, artificial intelligence and autonomy for vehicles, and also exploring the different types of connectivity that really can benefit safety, mobility, the whole gamut. And so what have we done as an agency? Well, one thing is we've developed new standards of what our infrastructure needs to look like, what condition it needs to be in for these technologies to work with regards to the pavement structure, the pavement markings, the signs and everything, because this artificial intelligence, it's always collecting data, using it to make decisions. If your infrastructure is not in a condition that is conducive to that, then it could cause problems with that technology. And so that's one thing we've been doing. The other is we've got the foundation in place for the future. But then, I would say the third thing is let's breaking it down to what's realistic over the next 10 to 20 years. Where do we really see this technology benefiting transportation? And there's two big areas. One is the efficiencies and safety to be seen with autonomy on your free-flowing facilities, primarily your interstates. There's a huge efficiencies to be gained with the trucking industry and the movement of freight, and even the movement of people, utilizing autonomous technology in areas where there's not as many decision points. And so like your interstates are one, like the platooning of trucks. And so how do we prepare for that, making sure that as we upgrade and build new truck parking facilities and rest areas, that those facilities are going to facilitate the trucking industry and how it's going to be using this technology. And that could come down to electric vehicle infrastructure, having staging areas for these platooning of trucks to maybe switch over, and also just supporting the technology as a whole. If they need some sort of connectivity with our infrastructure, making sure that we're deploying devices that are capable of communicating with that. And so we've already been developing and implementing that. In Florida, the legislature took action a few years ago, and autonomous vehicles can test and pilot on the state highway system, which has been really crucial in the development of these technologies. We see that it's attracting these companies in to innovate and develop new technologies. The other part of technology that's really important, we see a potential huge benefit is with I would say the ability of infrastructure to communicate important information back to your everyday motorist. Whether it be lane closures or stop traffic or objects in the road, you already see some of your navigation apps. They're using cloud data to tell you where objects are in the road, if there's a vehicle stopped on the shoulder. Just think about what if you were getting real reliable information at a moment's notice that could be pushed to your navigation app about the infrastructure itself to help you make decisions that could impact your life or somebody else's life on that facility. We see a huge benefit there, and so we even rolled out a statewide program we're doing a pilot with, it's called the One Dot Network, and it's just the beginning, where the goal is for every single lane closure on the state highway system to be immediately input when it's enacted, so that this information can be shared with navigation apps, and you'll get that information real time while you're driving. It's good information to have if you're planning your route, but more than that, what if you have real-time information about a lane closure coming up and are able to prepare for slow down or stop traffic? It can really change things. So, thank you. Great question.
All right. Thank you. Please join me in thanking Secretary Perdue for his time, for his insights, and we certainly appreciate your passion for rural Florida. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Now it is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Marion County's Tracy Straub. Now, I thought that Jared Perdue's 18-year tenure at FDOT was impressive, and it is, but Tracy has been a professional engineer with Marion County for 21 years. And as you probably read in our program, her resume is impressive, and she is at the head of pretty much everything that has to do with transportation and growth here in Marion County. And that's a good thing, because Tracy Straub is an Ocala native and a 5th generation Marion County Floridian. We know that she knows about transportation, but we also know that she cares, because this is her home. Ladies and gentlemen, Marion County's Tracy Straub.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you all for inviting me to join this presentation today. And it was refreshing, certainly, to hear Secretary Perdue speak and be able to recognize how that comes to the local level, that so much of what he says is really in line with what you see here locally with Marion County. I'm not going to reintroduce myself. Michelle did a great job telling you about who I am. As the Assistant County Administrator, I do have several of the teams that are very much involved with growth and development, whether that's the Office of the County Engineer, where I was the previous county engineer at. That's your team that handles roads, stormwater, design of roads, your traffic signals, your traffic needs in general, and your roadway maintenance. That's every bit as critical to anything that we do as well. So I also have our building safety department, which is where your building permits are from, and our planning and zoning team, which is where initial development projects begin. They look at the land use and the zoning applications, and our MSTU assessment department, which is a team that assists more on the local level inside neighborhoods. If you wanted something done particularly in your neighborhood, they would assist you. Our community services department helps facilitate a number of programs for our community everything from affordable housing to some additional financial assistance for those in need. We certainly have been pretty busy this past year. You heard a lot about the growth and development countywide, or statewide, and then and countywide. In the last couple of years, we've been issuing around 5,000 certificate of occupancies for residential building permits. In 2019, we were only half that number. And when you go back as far as 2010, which of course we were sitting in the economic recession, there were only a couple of hundred single-family residential permits issued at that time. I want to pause at this slide, though, and again, I think you heard Bernie Little relate to you some of this same information, but I do think it's important for you to know in Marion County, in my home county, which is important to me, 49% of our land mass is made up of the Ocala National Forest, other government lands, our lakes, rivers, and streams. 19% is within the Farmland Preservation Area. I'm not overlapping those numbers, 49% and 19%. There's another 21% that we categorize with rural or low density land use designations. And so that only leaves about 11% of Marion County where development is being directed towards. That's that urban growth boundary. Oh, I do have a pointer that works. That's that urban growth boundary that you see there in the heart of the county, definitely focused around the city of Ocala and down into the Bellevue area. So we have over 70,000 acres of thoroughbred horse farms in Marion County. There's almost 200 miles of trails for hiking and biking, more than 150 miles of streams and rivers that I enjoy kayaking and canoeing on. And I'm particularly proud to tell you, home to 3 first magnitude springs, 5 second magnitude springs, 20 plus third magnitude springs, and countless other springs. So we continue to thrive as a natural gem. And we recognize that as we watch our growth and development occur. But through it all, of course, we do have a road network. So your county government, we maintain approximately 2,500 centerline miles of road. So about half of that is subdivision roads, and another half is your major road network. There are as many roads that we maintain, that half number of your major road network, that we estimate to be not maintained by the county. So whether that's another agency, such as DOT, or a municipality, and it can also be our private communities, as well as those roads that have never been accepted into the county maintenance system. Maybe they're just older roads, maybe they were never built properly, maybe there's some of those dirt roads out across the forest areas. As part of the transportation network, it's important to note that besides the roads, of course, are the drainage retention areas, the miles of right-of-way, that green space on either side of our paved roads, 92,000 plus traffic signs, and 131 traffic signals. When you talk about bringing a road into place, you heard Secretary Perdue talk about the time and energy that goes into it. You're looking at 15 to 20 years in the making. So here in Marion County, we team with our transportation planning organization. This is a group that works with all of the municipalities, and they do a 25-year planning document. So this 25-year planning document looks at what is the needs in the county as we move into the future. So this document gets updated every 5 years. The next update is about to kick off here at 2025. The TPO team will start working on that next year. They look at what's already been accomplished, what's still in the plan. They hold public surveys and listening sessions and community meetings to hear what is the community saying needs to be done. And the plan does include more than just roads. It does think about the trail network. It thinks about the pedestrian network. It includes Suntran, which is our local bus here in Marion County. So in this particular plan, your current active plan, There is approximately $4 billion worth of programming anticipated between 2020 and 2045 that's being funded by all of your agencies, Marion County, the cities, and DOT bringing funding directly to Marion County projects, or projects that are DOT projects as well in Marion County. There's another $750 million of unfunded needs that are identified as well. Those are roads that we know need to be worked on, and we just aren't able to fund them yet. As projects get closer, so we leave the 2045 horizon and we move out to our 5-year vision. We like to budget in a 5-year cycle, and we do that, of course, because there's a lot that goes into bringing a road project into reality. Whether it's starting with just the study itself, there's some environmental studies that have to go on. You have to start talking to the community. You have to start engaging with property owners. We're going to have to acquire the right-of-way. We're going to perform the survey. We're going to perform the design, and then we'll move into construction. So those elements get built into the 5-year plan as we begin our budgeting cycle. And we call this 5-year plan our TIP. You'll hear me refer to TIP quite frequently, the TIP or the TIP, and that is the Transportation Improvement Program. So in our current 5-year plan, there's $186 million worth of projects that are funded in the 5-year projection. So this plan gets reworked each year. We add in the next year to it, and we update the next 5 years. And we do this before we go to the Board of County Commissioners seeking a budget adoption. So at any given time you're in the plan, you're only funded for 1 year through the adoption. But again, if we don't plan accordingly and keep projects moving one to the next, we'd never get anywhere. So the board has been pretty good about relating to that 5-year vision. I'm going to zoom you in a little bit closer on this map. I was really glad to hear that we had this nice big screen and not just these little screens. And I'm going to bring you to where the heart of a lot of the projects are going. So I moved the map into the center of the county, and I want to orient you a little bit to this map. So of course you're noticing the city of Ocala is called out there in the middle. If I point here, does it point? That's easier for me. And then down south you see the city of Bellevue, of course. Now north is straight up, and Dunellen is out to our west, and the Ocala National Forest is over here to the east. So on this map, you'll see that we have roads that are gray. These are roads that are not maintained by the county. So for instance, this road running right through the center here and then out through Bellevue, of course, is 441. That's why it's gray. We don't maintain it. The same can be said for I-75, and then any of the roads that are maintained by the city, and then some of those private developments that we don't maintain their roads in. The black roads, those are county-maintained roads. So you see a handful of subdivisions that are black in here, as well as some of the more major routes that you might use, commuting back and forth to do your business. Gold routes are our proposed maintenance projects on our TIP. Those are the ones that are the resurfacing and the reconstruction of the existing road network. Those bright green roads, those are our capacity projects, and those are the ones that I'm going to talk to you more about today. A capacity project is when we want to add room on the road to move more cars around. So we're adding a travel lane, which you don't typically just add one travel lane, you add it in both directions. We might be adding some turn lanes. We might be making signalized improvements. Anything to do that will help let traffic flow better. So the capacity projects are budgeted at just over $131 million for the next 5 years. So this is a lot of funding for Marion County, and I want to pause and reflect on that because that has a lot to do with the sales tax initiative, our penny sales tax. Your TIP does not include sales tax revenues beyond the 24 collection. Collections end December 31st, 2024. So it's important to know that. We've got a lot of money available to us to try to catch up for where we weren't able to produce projects during the economic downturn. But we don't budget beyond what we know we've been given, which is that December 2024 end of collection life. also, you can find our TIP on our website at any time, and you can see what projects look like and where they're at in the schedule. Today's roadway network is a little bit different than what was done, 20 years ago. So today, we're making sure when we build these capacity projects, these 4-lane corridors, you're looking at 2 lanes in either direction with a grassed median. So often when you drive our old roads, you see a sea of asphalt and a paved median down the middle. We're trying not to do that anymore. You also see bike lanes on either side of the travelways. You see where we're adding a sidewalk component on one side of the road and a multi-use trail component on the other side of the road. That multi-use trail component is really great in Marion County because it connects us wherever we can, wherever it makes sense to get folks over to the greenways, which cut through a big piece of the southern part of the county, starting in the southwest and then moving towards the northeast as you continue across the county. So going on to some specific road projects. I'm going to start in our southeast portion of the county, and I'm going to talk about Southeast Emerald Road. So Emerald Road comes out of Silver Spring Shores. The road is already existing inside Silver Spring Shores. And if you're familiar with Silver Spring Shores at all, you know that County Road 464 is the only major corridor that runs through that community. And hopefully you don't have to drive that road at 8 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock at night. It is a horrible drive. It's completely full. The road is more than at capacity. And we need to give those residents other ways out, not only just to enjoy the ride, but for safety reasons. If something happens at that north end of 464 before baseline, they're trapped in there. It's a lot of effort to get south in the county and around. So we're bringing Emerald Road further to the west, and we're going to connect up with Southeast 92nd Loop. That's a nice road that the county built about 10 years ago. It's a 4-lane road that takes you from the baseline area and out around to the Bellevue area. It's one of those capacity roads that helps facilitate some additional traffic movement. So like Emerald Road, we're going to build another road out of Marion Oaks. So I've jumped over to the southwest side of the county. Marion Oaks is down in our southwest corner. And same thing with Marion Oaks. They're kind of landlocked in there. They're trapped. Their major corridor through their community is County Road 484. They have Southwest 49th Avenue moving north, but it's got some limitations, and we're going to come back to that. You can't get east of Marion Oaks without going down 484 and going through the interchange at I-75. That's a tight squeeze through there. There's a lot of people trying to move through that interchange. And then, of course, if you wanted to go to the west, you're going to hit State Road 200, and nobody likes to drive State Road 200. So we're trying to build what's called a flyover. So Marion Oaks Manor, Marion Oaks already exists in Marion Oaks. Marion Oaks Manor already exists in Marion Oaks. We're going to 4-lane that road. It's got a substantial right-of-way on it. It was likely envisioned back when the community was developed to be a 4-lane. And we're going to put a flyover over the interstate. Most of you are likely familiar with the flyover concept. You've seen that where we did that on Southwest 42nd. That's 42nd is the road that comes over. If you were to be at Trinity High School and continue west, you'd fly over the interstate, and you'd come down at the entrance to the Kohl's Shopping Center, the back road that gets you into the Heathbrook Mall, before you were to intersect State Road 200. So we're going to do a similar concept here at Marion Oaks Manor. We're going to fly over so that we can get a lot of traffic from the west, that they can get over to the east side of the county and relieve some of that north-south flow that everybody's experiencing on that west side of the county there. Using this same map, County Road 484. So County Road 484 is 4-laned currently today from I-75 to just past the Florida Crossroads Commerce Park. That's a newer industrial park. It's home to that new Dollar Tree distribution facility. We have several other facilities looking to go there. So there's a lot of activity happening in that area. But again, it's a 2-lane road going to State Road 200, so we need to finish that 4-lane connection out to State Road 200. right. So previous on the map, I talked a little bit about Southwest 49th Avenue. 49th Avenue exists very much so in the southwest side of the county, predominantly so on the south end. It already has a significant backbone running through Marion Oaks and north. We're going to make sure that it connects to that Marion Oaks Manor, that flyover road. And then we're going to bring it north. We are building a new road through the industrial park. We're going to get to the Greenway, and we're going to use that Greenway path that exists today and bring it through the Greenway. This is about 95th Street, which is where Liberty Middle School is at. We've already built the 4-lane stretch up to 66th Street, which is also known as Williams Road, which is a smaller 2-lane bridge that goes over I-75. So there's a lot of traffic that reaches that bridge or reaches that road, 66th Street, and has to make a decision. Do I go right and go over that bridge to 475A, or do I go left and go hit State Road 200 to keep making your way north? Those are tough choices to make. Neither one is a great decision. So 49th Avenue is going to keep going north, and it's going to come out at that flyover road that I was talking about before, 42nd Street, right there on the back side of that new Heathbrook Mall, newer Heathbrook Mall. And then it's going to intersect 42nd Street, whereas the city has projects that they're going to take 42nd Street and they're going to continue north, being that parallel corridor to I-75. So you'll see some relief, we hope, on the I-75 network because folks can use this road. You'll see some general relief to our whole southern western side of the county, having some new options to keep moving north. Couple design challenges, things that people don't realize, why things take so long, and what do we have to overcome. So 49th Avenue has a great power line corridor running right next to it. This is not the power line that's maybe in your neighborhood, small wooden poles. These are some substantial concrete poles. They're actually not in the right-of-way, they're in an easement. If they're in the right-of-way, I get to kind of ask the utility companies to adjust and move around for me. If they're in an easement, which they're in an easement on private property, I have to respect that line. Otherwise, it comes at a tremendous cost to pick them up and move them. So that's a challenge that we work with. So another challenge, which is not really a challenge, it's more of an opportunity for us. I told you that 49th goes through the Greenway. The Greenway is very limited. They will not let you impact the Greenway further. It's a tremendous hurdle. They've the state, and when I say the state, that is we the people, have acquired that Greenway, and they want to hold on to everything that's in that Greenway area. So you don't put another route through the Greenway. So that's why 49th Avenue is so important to us, to do what we can with it. And in those conversations, we need to provide for wildlife corridor crossings as well as people crossings, those trails again that are out there. So whether it's the horseback riders, folks on bicycle, or just simple pedestrians, we are adding those bridge crossings that you see in the design. This has been a corridor that a lot of folks are interested in. We call it our Southwest 80th, 70th Avenue corridor. So we want to continue moving people north and south, giving them other options so they're not having to get out on State Road 200. And doing so, on top of the world is at the south end. I guess let me orient you to this map again really quickly. So hopefully you see State Road 200. I'm not really connecting with that one so well. So you see State Road 200 down here. And then at the south end, of course, this is on top of the world over here. And 80th Avenue exists running alongside on top of the world. And then it gets up here to 38th. On top of the world essentially ends right here. This is 38th Street, which is where Westport High School is. Do you have any idea how many students go to Westport High School? A lot. Am I north? I'm too far north. I'm already down at State Road 40, thank you. It's hard to see from this angle. So a lot of kids go to Westport High School. So as we move north from 38th, we're going to go through the State Road 40 intersection. We're going to come along the new World Equestrian Center development. The road changes names as it makes the bend, and it goes to 70th. It's going across, it still has an intersection with US 27, and then it ends just a little bit north of there. You already see some of that construction underway, going through the intersection at US 27. But we're gonna make that 11-mile stretch 4-lane through there. We're doing it in multiple phases, and oh dear. Okay. I think that's really, I think that's what's really important about that road, to know that that's just a significant project on our radar. Hopefully you all do know, down there by where I was erroneously not pointing at, if we get ourselves back down here to 38th, you know, a lot of critical activity going on in this area, and we do have 38th on our horizon as well to widen. But you have the Florida Aquatics swimming and training facility here, as well as a new charter school and all of the expanded development of On Top of the World called their Kalisa subdivision. So there's just a lot of activity occurring in that general area. In that general area is also Southwest 80th Street. Southwest 80th Street touches 80th Avenue and State Road 200. We already have a lot of traffic threading its way through on that little 2-lane road. It's a very old 2-lane road, but it's been on our radar for quite a while to become a 4-lane corridor. The Northwest 49th 35th Street corridor is a critical one for the community. So we've jumped now to north of Ocala, and I'm trying to put in a 4-lane road that runs all the way from that 80th, 70th to 25A corridor, through our new interchange, through the 489 Industrial Park where the FedEx and the Chewy are at, continuing east to 441, and then continuing east to get folks over to the baseline State Road 40 area. This is going to relieve traffic most definitely on State Road 40 through the city of Ocala. You know, State Road 40 is also Silver Springs Boulevard there. You do not have a lot of substantial 4-lane corridors north of town. You have US 27. You have then you have 326 after that. 326 is further north, and the intersections at US 27 and 326 are pretty well clogged up. So by providing this new path, we're hoping to just improve overall traffic flow along the north side of the city. And then, of course, you heard Secretary Perdue talk about our new interchange. This has been a great partnership with DOT, and we're very proud of it. We think that it's extremely important for our community because of what we talked about, all of the traffic that's already jammed up at that 326 intersection, that traffic that's jammed up at the US 27 intersection. This interchange has been envisioned for quite a while. We had to apply to the Federal Highway Administration for approval of it. This has been probably a 15-year project in the works, if not even 20 years, to get it to fruition. They recognized the problems at US 27 and 326, so they brought it into reality and agreed to make it a funded project. When it was initially funded through DOT's programs, we were looking at it being built maybe in the 2040s. We knew that this was detrimental to the community, so we worked with DOT and became a funding partner with them. So we're able to bring this project into construction here in just the next few years. All right, so now I've left projects that the county is actively working on. But when I was asked to speak at the summit, I was asked particularly, could I talk about what was going on at 318? I want you to know that the county has nothing going on at County Road 318. Nothing. No, but you all do know that you have some projects in that area. So of course the county does periodically have to do resurfacing and guardrail maintenance, and all of that will continue on that road, just like any other road in our county. But I think you're very familiar with the projects that have recently come in near the intersection. Sunny Oaks is on the east side of the intersection, and the World Equestrian Center's purchase of the Ocala Jockey Club and their improvements there are on the west side of the intersection. So those projects would have to continue moving forward. We have not received any additional submittals beyond the land use and the zoning changes. But when they do, one of the things that they're going to be required to look at is traffic needs. So we have talked about some potential traffic needs if these projects were moved forward. But when the county looked at it, we looked at it as a planning level study. And we looked at it that if the applicants maximized their use on their property, if they took 100% of every corner of the land and they developed it to the absolute fullest that it could, what traffic improvements would be needed? And you're looking at well over $60 million worth of improvements. When you look at it, let me go back to that previous slide. Yeah. So this view is shown to you because when you look at the needed improvements, when anybody comes in with an application, they're required to look out at a 3% segment impact. That means that anywhere that their traffic flow might contribute 3% increase, maybe decrease, increase to the area, they need to evaluate that impact. So that view shows you that State Road 40 showed an impact with these projects coming in with that maximized use. But all of these projects still need that detailed study. For the traffic projects need a detailed study for each application projects coming in and what they finally decide that they're going to bring in. Both projects together showed a $61 million impact. Of that, they're responsible for over $60 million. However, we don't know that both projects will come in at the same time. So one project could come in before the other, and then the impacts would shift, and the timing of those improvement needs would shift based on which each project is doing to the roadway network. So for instance, Sunny Oaks, they showed that if they did a full build out, they could potentially have to widen County Road 318 from I-75 back to 441 from 2 lanes to 4 lanes. If they only do partial improvements, they may not have to do that so soon. If Ocala Jockey Club and WET come in, they show that there might be a need for some changes to the signalized intersection at 225A and 318, 225 and 318. But all of those are based off of what actually is built and what they decide to do. So I just wanted to leave you with a quick driver's update. I think it's important as those of us drive around town and we don't realize as traffic patterns change. You may have noticed at some of your signals that a flashing yellow arrow has been added. It doesn't mean go faster. It means you still need to take pause, but it does mean that you can turn while that signal is flashing in the direction of the arrow. It gives you that opportunity to evaluate the traffic that's coming to you, and it is a legal left turn at that point. So I just wanted to share that with you because you will notice that at a few intersections.
Thank you. Oh, you can stay right there because you're going to answer some questions now. So our first question is from Rob DeCino from Ocala Horse Properties.
Thank you very much for that informative explanation of what's going on in the county. The Secretary talked about the new I-75 interchange at 49th Street and the timing of that work. The county plans to extend 49th Street to the west to connect with Northwest 70th Avenue, also known as 225A. Two questions. How long do you project it will be before we can drive on the new Northwest 49th Street? And second, will Northwest 60th, the road by the airport, be extended to the north to connect with the new Northwest 49th Street?
Okay. So Northwest 49th Street, extending from the new interchange, going west over to 225A, portions of that are in design today. We are designing it as we're planning it as a 4-lane segment eventually. We're going to construct it as a 2-lane segment. We are prepared to construct next year about a little over a mile piece from 44th Avenue going west, which would take you past a rear entrance into the Trilogy development. I'm trying to remember if I'm using the current name, Trilogy development, the newer subdivision there on US 27. We do not have all the right-of-way secured moving further west to 225A. We're going to be initiating that process next year. So I think by the time you'd reach 225A, you're looking probably at a 3-year window. Okay. 60th Avenue. So, so we're right here on 60th Avenue. And if you were to continue that north up to US 27, right now it doesn't go further north than that. But working with that subdivision Trilogy, we did reserve right-of-way on their west side. At this moment, we do not have a road planned, but we do recognize that that does make for a good potential connector, and that is why we reserved the right-of-way with the subdivision to get folks up to the new connection that would get over to the interchange at 49th Street.
Thank you. Your next question is from Linda Bauman of Laughing Horse Farm. Linda.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
My question relates to the 2 large development projects on 318, the Sunny Oaks and the World Equestrian Center Jockey Club. Our understanding is there's been some challenges related to the development. Could you give us a sense of those, the timing and the procedure for resolving those challenges?
There have been some challenges filed. So I am not an attorney. I do leave some of that to our county attorneys to work on, but there have been some challenges filed. So for the Sunny Oaks, the judges need to review the challenges that have been filed. They have not asked us to provide further response to that challenge. On the World Equestrian Ocala Jockey Club side, that is a different type of challenge that's been filed, and there has been an administrative hearing date set. We will participate in that hearing to work our way through that project. I believe that hearing date is set for early next year. Depending on the findings of that, it certainly could be resolved at that time. It could be, it could go through various iterations. So I did recently have a conversation with our county attorney about that because I'm as curious as you are about the process. And sometimes they move quickly and sometimes they don't. So when you talk about days, months, or years, we know we're into months, and they cannot, neither project is able to move forward with construction without having both of these items buttoned up. So while we will continue to work with them through the permitting process, because we know that that takes time and the analysis of the traffic takes time, we would not be able to issue any permits until they've resolved both of those challenges that are out there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
What a great overview of what's happening in Ocala right now with the roads. So this concludes our program today. I hope that you found it informational and fruitful and helpful to you as we move forward into a future that obviously is full of both challenge and promise. A big herd shakes the ground. I hope that you would join us. Together we can make a difference for those future generations who work and play here in Marion County by preserving our open spaces and beautiful places. Please join us. Thanks again, everyone, for making this day possible. Be well, travel safely, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday.